Hey everybody, today is Tuesday, June 15th, and this is episode 11 of the Rome Bracy Sports Show. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss another show. Please support this podcast by following the link in the description or by clicking support on Anchor. Listen to audio-only versions of this podcast by searching my name, Romello Bracy, on Apple and Spotify. The social question of the day is, with the Suns sweeping the Nuggets, are they your favorite to come out of the West? And to be honest with you, they're really not. I think the Suns are a really good team and they're making strides in the right direction, but I don't think they're ready to come out and win the West. I've rode with the Clippers ever since the beginning, and I think they're going to be the team to come out of the West. I think if the Suns and Clippers do end up meeting in the Western Conference Finals, I'll definitely be taking the Clippers. I just think that they have two perimeter defenders in Kawhi and Paul George who can really change the game. And although Devin Booker is an electric scorer, he does not affect the defensive side of the ball at all. And Chris Paul is also, he's a great perimeter defender, but he's on the small side. So I think Kawhi and Paul George will really be able to take advantage of that. Although they're in a tough series with the Utah Jazz right now, being tied 2-2, but long story short, the Suns are not my favorite. I'm going to take the Clippers to come out of the West ultimately. But on this day in sports history, June 15th, the Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 108-96 in Game 5 of the NBA Finals in 2001. And this completed the most dominant playoff run in NBA history. The Lakers posted a 15-1 record and a 93% winning percentage, both of them being NBA records. So this was arguably the best NBA run of all time. It was definitely a fun team to watch with Kobe and Shaq, the three-peat, arguably the best team in NBA history. The Atlanta Hawks did win Game 4 of this series, tying it up 2-2 with the Philadelphia 76ers. And this one was really a surprise to me. The Philadelphia 76ers did lead 62-49 at the half and looked pretty dominant. Danny Green did not play for the 76ers. And to go along with Trae Young's 25 points, Bogdan Bogdanovic had 22 points, and John Collins had 14 points and 12 rebounds. Trae Young didn't shoot particularly well, shooting 8 of 26, but he had 18 assists to go along with, like I said, the 25 points. So in a game where he shoots 8 for 26, Trae Young does have 25 points and 18 assists, which is pretty nuts, pretty close to a playoff 25-20 game, which not many people have done. But Joel Embiid is the story of this game. He ends up finishing with 17 points and 21 rebounds, and he actually spent time in the locker room in the second quarter and did not make a single field goal in the second half after the injury. So that's concerning if you're a 76ers fan. It's always been health with Joel Embiid, never about skill. So let's hope he's able to finish out the series looking somewhat healthy. To go along with Embiid's 17, Tobias Harris scored 20 points for the Sixers and Seth Curry had 17. Seth Curry did miss the potential tying three-pointer at the buzzer, but Embiid in total did shoot 4 for 20 from the floor. So in a game where the 76ers need their stars to step up, Embiid can't shoot 4 for 20. They're not going to win those games, even with a 15-point lead at halftime. And Atlanta actually gave themselves a chance by having a strong third quarter coming out of halftime, outscoring the Sixers 31-20 in the period and cutting the deficit to just 2 points heading into the fourth. And like I said, heading into the fourth, it was 82-80 after the 76ers led by as much as 17 in the second. But after a three from Furkan Korkmaz, the Sixers led 98-94. But then right after that, the Hawks went on a 7-0 run and led 101-98 with 49 seconds left. And I think that really just shows how resilient of a team this Hawks team is. They don't give up, and even in the big moments, they're pushing to try and win the game. And I think they have some really young dogs on that team that are going to make impacts in the playoffs to come for many years. But the Hawks will be back in action, looking for a series lead on Wednesday in Philadelphia this time. So we'll see who can take that Game 5. I think that's really going to be an important one that determines the series. But another game that was played last night was the Clippers and the Jazz, and my Western Conference favorite tied up the series 2-2. Just like in their last series, they go down 0-2 and then they win 2 in a row, and they looked pretty convincing doing so. The Clippers end up winning this one by 14 points, but they were up by 30 for most of the game, and they got 31 points from Kawhi Leonard and from Paul George, so the star production is there. And they also became the 5th duo since the merger with 30 points each in back-to-back playoff games. And to go along with their 30, Marcus Morris Sr. actually added 24 with 5 threes. So they weren't lacking in the scoring department, and when Marcus Morris is scoring 24 points too, you're going to have success. The highlight of the game, though, was when Kawhi dunked on Derek Favors to give the Clippers a 62-38 lead with 1:24 remaining in the second quarter. And like always, Donovan Mitchell did his thing. He led Utah with 37 points, which made him the first player since Golden State's Stephen Curry in 2019 to have 6 straight 30-point games in the playoffs. And the Clippers are going to look to take a series lead when they head back to Utah on Wednesday. So I just want to touch on my least favorite thing in sports, which is injuries. The NBA playoff injuries this year has been just absolutely devastating, and no team really looks the same when their star players are out. So I just want to go over the list that has grown since the playoffs have started. So Anthony Davis started out with his injury. Then you have LeBron James, who was injured. Chris Paul injured his shoulder. Joel Embiid has been banged up the entire playoffs. Luka Doncic had that neck injury. Donovan Mitchell has been out with his ankle. Dante DiVincenzo actually out for the season for the Bucks. Jamal Murray and Jaylen Brown with their late season injuries, putting them out for the entire playoffs and possibly to start next season. Danny Green's also out. Mike Conley hasn't played in the past 2 games for the Jazz. James Harden and Kyrie Irving. So injuries are the worst, and I just really wanted to point out how the healthiest team is really going to be the one that wins. And that's why I do like the Clippers, because you don't see anyone from the Clippers on that list. They stay healthy, and the healthiest team is usually going to be the one that lifts that trophy at the end of the year. So we've only got one NBA playoff game tonight, and that is going to be the Bucks versus the Nets. The series is now tied 2-2 after the Bucks have won the past 2 games. The Nets are getting unhealthy at the wrong time with no Harden and no Kyrie playing in this game. Kyrie Irving has been ruled out of the contest at the Barclays Center after an MRI confirmed that he suffered a sprained ankle in Sunday's Game 4. James Harden, who strained his hamstring in Game 1, also remains out, and Steve Nash admitted he doesn't even know if Kyrie will be available for any of the games this series. So Durant came out and said, I've just got to be prepared to do everything out there just like any night. So I'm sure Durant is going to have a special night, maybe even dropping 50. I wouldn't be surprised, but he can't win the game single-handedly, and I think the Bucks take a 3-2 series lead and could possibly close out the series. The NBA all-defensive teams were announced, and just wanted to take a look at the first team, and not surprisingly, recently crowned Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz was among one of the 5 players on the All-NBA first team, and he and Ben Simmons were the only ones to receive 100 of the first team votes. So those were the 2 guys that were potentially going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Rudy Gobert ends up winning it. And to go along with Rudy Gobert and Ben Simmons, Draymond Green of the Warriors, Drew Holiday of the Bucks, and Giannis of the Bucks round out that All-NBA first team. And I don't think they got anything really wrong here. I think you can argue Embiid could maybe be in there, but I like Drew Holiday on the first team. I think Draymond had a great season on the defensive end like he always does. But to go in that All-NBA second team, we have Bam Adebayo from Miami, Jimmy Butler from Miami, Joel Embiid from Philly, and then Matisse Thybulle from Philly as well. He's a really good defender, and they pretty much just use him as a defender in the rotation, and he's really good. If you haven't watched him, look out for number 22 on Philadelphia. He doesn't do much on the offensive end, but he's a great defender. And then Last but not least on that second team is Kawhi Leonard of the Clippers. I think he's put more effort in on the defensive end, and that really shows in the playoffs. I think during the regular season he does kind of coast and doesn't play that elite defense that he is capable of playing. But this is the all NBA defensive teams. I don't think they really got anything too wrong, but these guys really balled out and played defense throughout the season. So there's a little bit more NFL news. As mandatory minicamp is beginning, you'll start to see players holding out, and the big name for the New England Patriots is cornerback Stephon Gilmore. He is holding out and he's not present for mandatory minicamp. The 2019 AP NFL Defensive Player of the Year winner is seeking a new contract, and he's actually rehabbing from a partially torn quad from last season. Stephon Gilmore is 30 years old, so he's an older defensive back. I think it's going to be hard to try and get paid the bag that he wants, just where he's at in his career, but he's set to earn a $7 million base salary this season, which is just way too low. That's the bottom half of the league in corners. And the Patriots did move it up $4.5 million last year during training camp to pretty much avoid the situation that's happening this year. The Pro Bowler salary is actually 24th among corners in the NFL. So yeah, he's obviously not the 24th best corner and deserves a little bit more money than that. He's clearly underpaid. But his cap number this season is actually the highest among corners, which is crazy how that works, but it's $16.2 million. And he's actually going to be losing about $93,000 if he skips the entire mandatory minicamp. He's not the only corner that's holding out. Xavier Howard is also sitting out with contract disputes, and he led the NFL with 10 INTs last year. And he's not an older corner like Stephon Gilmore. He's actually young. He's proven the past 3 years that he's an elite lockdown corner in this league, and I think that man is going to get paid. So, but going back actually to Stephon Gilmore, you can see Jalen Ramsey trying to recruit him to come to LA. And I mean, if he's going to take a pay cut, I mean, I could see how that would work. The Rams are pretty much building a super team over there, and we'll see how it works out. But if they get Stephon Gilmore as well as Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, you're looking at 3 potential Defensive Player of the Year candidates on the same team. So that could be dangerous. The Eagles did sign former San Francisco 49 quarterback Nick Mullins. Thank goodness. I'm so happy Mullins is off of the 49ers roster. He had a very exciting first game of his career against the Raiders, and he put up crazy numbers, crazy stats that compared to quarterback starts of all time. So, shout out to Nick Mullins for the good things, but the most shout out to Nick Mullins for the good things, but for the most part, he was just throwing picks and making dumb decisions. So I'm happy that he is on another team. But congrats to Nick Mullins for signing with the Eagles. In other NFL news, Jarvis Landry did say that Odell Beckham is in the best shape of his life. And to quote him directly, he said, "Man, he looked amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see him. I can't wait for him to get back out there. He's in fantastic shape and he's ready to go." He's only, 6.5 months beyond surgery, and he's already doing some things that will blow your mind away. There's no doubt in my mind that Odell is going to recover 100% just because that's the type of athlete that he is. And I really am hoping for an Odell Beckham bounce back season. When he was at the top of his game, I couldn't name another receiver that was more exciting. So I'm rooting for Odell, absolutely, and I hope he goes off this year. I'm banking on a 1,000-yard season. I think him and Baker really get it together, and the Browns, I think, are just, as a team, just so dangerous. So look out for Odell heading into 2021. More camp hype. The Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott said Ezekiel Elliott is in the best shape of his life, and he's looking fast, and everybody's seen the clips of him working out independently, with his running back coach. So everybody needs to keep in mind that Ezekiel Elliott is only 25 years old. So Zeke is still in his prime. He had an off year last season, but I don't think anybody should be sleeping on this guy. I think he's going to finish top 5 in the league in total rushing yards. I think he's going to have more than 10 touchdowns. He's in just such a running back friendly offense that Ezekiel Elliott is somebody who you need to watch out for. In your fantasy teams, I would pick him up. He's a first round pick to me still in the top 5. If he falls in the second, I would love to take him. But look out for Zeke in the 2021 season. He's hungrier than ever, especially after having all those fumbling issues last year. I think he's ready to redeem himself in 2021. But hey, that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you have yet to subscribe to the podcast, make sure you do so, searching for it pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at RomeloB_sports.